Hello, Prosto. I'm trying to figure out live broadcasting, so haven't started yet. I'm getting ready to do some work if my setup can work. Open in web browser. Trying to get the chat to work. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'll start in just a second. Um, I'm gonna work on my series of temperature sensors. I found something interesting, and then I'm gonna try to go ahead and replace a chip tonight. I'm gonna start in just a little bit. So. If you go to the Discord channel, I added a new live broadcast chat down by Share Your Videos. You should be able to see that, and the link should be there. That link right above you, Miners Guana, you should be able to hit that and go. Tell me if you can't. All right, so this is the first time I might blow up my MacBook Pro, which is what I use for these live broadcasts, but I'm using Streamlabs, and it likes to use CPU. So, all right, so let me get that showing. Looks like I use drugs or something with the hypodermic needle, but so there's two chats. There's a YouTube chat, and I have Discord chat in there. It'd probably be better just to use YouTube chat, but it does get recorded in Discord chat the way I did the thing. Okay, so a couple of us. Hi everyone. Kiatasak, I hope I pronounced your name right. And Prosto, thank you. And Dead Rat and the Harpin, thanks for joining in. All right, so tonight, yeah, let me share the link again. I might be able to send it to you. How's that? Will that go? Let me know that that works for you, okay? So it's just YouTube, not Discord. All right, so Dead Rat, if you get a chance, maybe help him out if you can't see while I'm talking. I'd appreciate it if you're hanging around. If you're not, that's okay. If somebody else can help him, that'd be great. Okay, so let me hit the record button so this goes into the channel. I don't even know if YouTube archives this, so we'll have to figure out that later, but I'll record it here. So here we go. All right, so tonight I've been doing a series of videos on temperature sensors. The first video I went over, and this is a T17 board, I went over finding the temperature sensors and then basically setting up a table and measuring the resistance of all 6 legs to ground, and that I've had success sometimes finding an odd temperature sensor that didn't act like the rest of them. Basically the resistances were off, and I've had success changing it, and it's good. So it not only can, typically the problem isn't temperature sensors though, so you got to be careful when checking resistances, because the chips on the other side, which are right here, it could be that the chip on the other side isn't talking to the temperature sensor right. And then you have these this other thing. Zeus Mining made a statement in one of their documents that if your Antminer can't see all the temperature sensors, that it could be nothing about the temperature sensors, but actually a bad chip on the board. So my second video was actually looking for a bad chip on a different board than this. I had an error where 2 of the sensors were marked no good, and it wouldn't talk to them and it wouldn't mine. So the board's completely down. 2 of them were good. So I was searching for a bad chip. I still have that board behind me. I haven't resolved that error because all the chips are showing good. So I haven't resolved that. So this board was really bad. No temperature sensors were able to talk to the miner. And when I used the text fixture, it wouldn't even check for ASICs almost, it just, I think this has 30 ASICs, but, and I think they work. For some reason they work, and I don't know why, but the test fixture just came up with one message: temperature sensors no good. Sensors in G. Sensors in G. So I figured this would be good to try to find, gee, what's going on. I talked a lot about, and I get the microscope out, but there's a couple serial communications here, and I believe there's a serial communication at the end of the line here, and I think messages go both ways. I think there's a voltage. I'm not positive that this guy does a voltage. I'm still trying to find out the identity of this chip. But evidently, Zeus said, hey, if your system can't find any temperature sensors, it's either this chip or this chip. Well, with this board, I just started, and I make sure you guys can see this. Yeah. Let me see if it's not too shining too much. Let me turn it on. Yeah, okay, there you go. So, you guys probably haven't seen all my videos, but somebody mentioned to me a long time ago, and I did a whole video. Thanks, Desmond. About diode resistance. So if you do the fluke and you click it twice, basically you get this signal of diode up here. And on the T17, probably S17, if you start measuring the test points, they should be about 12. 1.2 or 1200, somebody says. They should be around 1200. That's pretty close, 1199. So the first thing I did is I went through this entire board. The very last thing I checked were these test points down. So this is chip 30 right here, and I checked these test points. And on another board, I had found a chip that was completely dead, that when I did a diode test, on every single test point on the chip, it came up 0, and I'd never seen that before at all. Never, ever seen just 0. Typically, if there's a short, you'll test it like where it's supposed to be 1200, and it'll say like 0.0028, and you know you've got probably a bad solder connection, maybe a cross solder connection, but I never did see 0. So I was checking through this, and one chip on another board I found completely 0, and it had temperature sensor problems. I'm in the process of changing that chip. It's not had a few problems. I've still got a clock signal that's down on it, and I basically need to reflow it again, so I haven't finished that one. But I started checking this board, and the same thing happened. One thing to note when you're at the end of your 30, and I don't know about other boards, there is test points at the end of the 30. But if you notice, the values are higher. So on this side of the chip, you'll get around the 1200s, pretty close. But when you go on the last part of the chip, it actually jumps into 13s and 1400s, and that's normal. I checked it with a bunch of my T17s. But check this out. When I get to it's the opposite of the clock signal. So it would be I think it's the CI or the RI signal. Check this out. There is no signal. I mean, it is just 0 dead. The one next to it got signal. This one, zero signal. So ends up, this chip is no good. So I had this board apart. I took the backs off. I measured the temperature sensors. Everything was checking out until I got to this one test point. So what I'm going to do tonight, given the time, and make sure everything goes okay. Sometimes I miss on chip transplants, but I'm going to try to do it. Is I'm going to replace this chip. I already tried to reflow it, and that didn't work. I always try to reflow the chip first. It's easier, so I throw it on a hot plate. I put flux on it. I heat it up to 120, 130, 140, and then I throw it with 450 degree air, and I wait till everything melts, and I take my favorite set of tweezers and I push down. If there's a certain pin that doesn't look like it's soldered well, I'll veer toward a side of the chip that makes sense here. But basically that's what I do. So I already did that with this. No luck. This thing is deader than a doornail. For all I know, it could be something internal back here too. I don't know, but I've seen this on chips. So tonight, I'm going to take this chip off. I'm going to go through the preparation of the site. Hopefully there's no burn marks on the green board that I have to repair. It'll just make it a longer video. And then I'm going to get a new chip out, and I'm going to prepare a new chip, and I'm going to go through the process of what I do. I have this guy right here. It's a Yihua 1000B, so I'm going to use a hot plate. I'll move this overhead camera over there, and hopefully you guys can see it. I've done this video before, but you know, hey KMO, nice to meet you there. I've talked to you on Discord a few times. So I'm going to just go through the whole process of replacing the chip. So this is let's see if we can fix the temperature sensor by replacing this chip that's bad. And unfortunately, I don't have my tester at handy. I have to go back in the laundry room on a 240 plug, and that's not on my bench. I don't have 240 here. So I'm going to have to tell you on the video on YouTube that I was successful. And I will put that at the end of the YouTube. So if you don't see, gee, I was successful, there's probably something still wrong with this board. So this is the guy we're going to focus on. Hopefully the heat's not going to bother these capacitors. So I guess we'll get started. So the first step is getting this off and hold on, can't see. First step is getting this guy off. And so I'm going to move my camera back and set it up so you guys are right over my cooker. Maybe turn the light down a little bit, maybe not. Okay. So it comes with this rack, but sometimes I just don't use the rack. Before you do this, I always try to make sure that the board has these on it because they conduct heat a lot better. And I try to get it in a position that I can work with it. So it's going to be kind of like, I'm going to have to reach, I could probably do it this way. So I usually like grabbing the tweezers and the chip this way, and that's kind of wrong for this. So I'll throw it here, and I can grab stuff here. It's kind of way up there. The bottom here is a little shaky, so I usually take a couple of my heat sinks stacked on my desktop, and I throw it up. Now you could just probably use a heat gun and heat the heck out of it, but I really don't want to do that. I'm trying to preserve the resistor so I don't have that extra work. I'm going to turn on my workstation. So my audio might get a little funny with that. I am checking your YouTube chat more than Discord for sure, but I can see Discord on a second monitor. So let's see. So I'm gonna turn this on. Basically, it goes to 180. I have it set on 180, and it's just gonna slowly start to heat this thing. So I'm gonna also what I do to make it easier, I'm gonna throw down some more flux, just along where it. And around to make it easy. And now the long wait. So I have to wait about 15 minutes, and that's the problem with live video. I guess I can't pause it on here, so this is going to be a long video. If you guys are on YouTube chat, want to ask a question while we're sitting here waiting for this guy to heat up, I wish that fan would get going. The fan's making a lot of noise. They don't make a very good fan on this workstation. But it's going to take a little while to heat up. And what I do, once this board's hot, I actually bring it right down to my microscope while it's hot. It's so much easier to work with while that board's hot. So I'll remove all the solder, and then I'll get new solder on it, and I'll prepare the board first while it's still warm. Then I'll throw it aside, and then I'll work on the chip. And then when I have the two together, I'll go back to both and then seat the chip and stuff. So that's what we're going to do tonight. It's going to take, I've got this down to about 35 minutes if it works well. I'm getting pretty fast. My first videos, I would take 4 hours to do a chip. It was just, I was kind of afraid to do anything. So if you look at the temperature under there, it's like 94 degrees, but I really, yeah, it's starting to warm up. Yeah, it's great. I put flux on this. So I really do let it get nice and warm so it's easier to work with. Oh, good. The fan stopped making noise. So, KMO, I think you have a lot of T17s, right? I see you doing T17 stuff, so. the price of these chips really went up. I bought 100 chips for $6 a piece, like in February, and now they're wanting $15 a piece for them, so it's really high. So I'm kind of waiting for that price to come down, if it will, because I'm running out of chips. I only have about 30 or 40 left. So I kind of do the touch test off to the side if it's too hot to touch. It's warming up really good. In the meantime, down here you can't see the display. I'm going to set my heat gun. I'm going to turn down the air all the way and set my heat gun's temperature to about 450, 455, whatever. Man, that light is just right where I'm going. Well, it's kind of off where I'm going to work. So sorry about the bar there. Let me see if I can even move it down further. Yeah, I don't think so. That makes it worse. Let's go this way. There we go. You got, oh, for $10 a piece, that's not bad. I'd almost buy them for $10 a piece. I'm kind of waiting. Maybe you'll have to send the link on Discord. Was it Alibaba? When you get a chance. Why this baby's heating? You know, I've done some live Discord. It's kind of nice. We could just all talk. You know, maybe that's better, but we'll try this for the heck of it. So. You know what I had to do is make a Mac device and turn on the voice channel on. I could turn on the voice channel on Discord so you guys could talk to me at the same time and route it to the microphone input of the live broadcast. Now that would be cool, but I'd have to hear it. I might get feedback. I might work on that. So in March, yeah. All right, let's see how we're doing here. I see the. I'm gonna add another fan maybe. Actually, I don't have to tonight. It's starting to smoke. Ow, yeah, so that's good. Wonder why I don't have fingertips here, so yeah, good. Thanks, I appreciate it. Alibaba too. All right, so I kind of got this to where I wrap my hand on one side. Your camera's going to be in the way, sorry. Where did I hit here? You can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm going to just hold it right over the chip, and I kind of watch the legs of the chip, and they kind of start to sparkle. So the heat gun's still heating up. And I'm going to switch to the microscope when we start working on the board. So I'm sure you guys have all done this before. I think the board heating up, without this heater on the bottom, I used to explode chips because you just get them too hot too fast. I'm going to try that chip right now. That. Okay, he's off. Always kind of look at these, but you can't tell, you know, any obvious thing on them. But the chip's off. I let him stay there and cool off. I turn off the heater, and now the fun begins. So, yeah, I got some solder to remove. So let me put it in a place I can work on it, and yeah, maybe there. We'll do it that way. All right, let me get the microscope set up for you. I've got to turn it on. It's gonna look weird first, but turn it on, turn him off. Yeah, okay. So let's go out here. Yeah, I use the infrared. You know what? I want to get up higher. I just found out it was just easier to heat the bottom and grab the heat gun. The infrared, you can't. Yeah, thanks. I need one of those guns. When you use the infrared lighter on this, I sat there, but you know, by the time you move it out of the way and you're ready to work on it, my eyes are blind. I'm older, so I'm not real young. So I stopped using it, and I've really this process I'm going to show you. I've done a lot of chips, and I've done them successfully. The infrared, sometimes the chip would get hot and start, and it varies with how much flux you use, but it would start to boil the flux underneath and throw the chip off, or the chip would move. I think I might like to go back and visit it because I've changed my I've really changed my technique some, but I used to use it. You'll see it in my earlier videos, but I don't now. So, all right, so I'm gonna the first step with this is all probably it's all solder without lead, which means it's got a higher temperature melting point. And I want to clean all that off. I want to clean it off on the legs, and I want to inspect it. So I'm gonna take my knife and I'm gonna cut off a little bit of wick here. Get my other guys here. So let me. I don't use. You can't see this tip, so I'm changing to a tip that I like, which is a big fat tip, and that lets me get the base of the chip hot enough to clean it. And so on my soldering iron, I'm gonna turn it up to 400. Now I'm not sure about this this station, because you know the cables with the soldering iron and the gun get all pretty close. Alright, so my best friend flux. I'm gonna make sure I have plenty of flux down here. It's still hot. If you can tell, the flux is reacting. It's still hot. So let's just get all the solder we can off of it. Hang on. This guy's still heating up. See if you can see this tip. See, there's a big chisel tip like that. It's pretty big. It looks giant there because I'm still holding it up, but yeah, we're about 400 now. Let's just clean the base right now. Lovely smoke. I see a lot of solder right here on the top. I'm going to try to pick it up and clean it off. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad really. There's still some solder there, but it's not going to interfere with any chip placement for sure. Okay, so I'm going to go down and do the legs now. And I try to be careful when I'm doing the legs. I suppose they say you're supposed to do it with the legs, but I actually do run up and down and backwards, just like this thing's all curved. Yeah, there we go. I want the solder off the legs, so we're gonna. It's pretty good. Get the other ones off. These feel more normal. Uh-oh, stuck. Still got some on there, just a sec. I'm not the most graceful worker, so. Let me get some flux on there, more flux, to make sure I'm not missing stuff. So at this point there might be a little solder left, but if you mix it with leaded solder, it should go good. All right, I'm gonna switch bits or switch points on the soldering iron now. So I'm gonna run this down to. I'm gonna actually start working. I'm gonna clean it off first, and I'm gonna make sure. I'll show you. I've had a lot of problems, especially on these T17s. I'm getting a Q-tip. So let me see, paper towel. Where did my So I kind of dab it with the paper towel with the alcohol. Okay, so we got a pretty clean board. I see a couple places that it's kind of up. What I do is I take a blade and smooth this out just anyway. I think that's all right. It doesn't have too much solder. These guys have a little bit on them, but I'm going to put new solder on now. So I worry about, you seem to be in between on that green line right there. You see, let me point to it. I always worry about solder traveling right there, because this actually goes to here. And I worry about solder traveling, it just depends on the place. Looks like this guy is my main one. Let me see over here. These guys might also, this is in really good condition. I've had some, you can barely see this paint to align the chip and do all that. The only time I've kept old solder on the legs is when I borrow a used chip. if I can pull a used chip off a board, it's got the same type of solder, I'll throw it on there. And I've had actually easier luck using used chips before I got the hot plate than now. Now I prefer new chips, and I spend a lot of time on prep and then do the new chip. Sometimes I'm successful or not. So, all right, now sorry, my hands are used to doing one way, so we're gonna. It's hard doing video and working at the same time. So let's see, we're right there. I kind of got it at an angle just because I worked that way. There we go. All right. So I use some 183 chip quick 0.02 wire solder, and it's leaded. So it actually has flux in it, but I always use it. So I'm gonna, I didn't turn this off. I'm gonna change tips. I really need 2 soldering irons. I think it would be easier. When I kept with the chisel and whatnot, and I just use those. But hang on, let me put my other point on. That dude's kind of hot. Okay. Let me turn it back on and let it warm up. Meantime, run a bead of flux here. Whoops, wrong place. I was making sure the video was showing and I went awry. Now I just do one at a time usually. So it says it's warm, but I usually wait a little longer. So all right, let's see if we can, I just put a little bit on the tip. Okay, it's on the tip. You see that? Okay. It's always going to stick down by this guy with 2 legs. So the best you can do down there. This is always a real pain down here. So I always expect it. I have too much solder there, so I just keep applying flux and I keep wiping off the excess. So I'll add some more solder, add some more flux. Clean my tip. There, got it. You see how that went? All right. So before I clean that up and really inspect it, I'm gonna do the other side. Then I'll clean it all up. Then I might have another round at this. This one's gonna have a problem on that one leg that crosses over to the pad because it doesn't. When you're sliding the soldering iron down, it doesn't warm up as much, and so it kind of stops and the solder pools. So. Ooh, that's not a bad one there, is it? It actually did it. I want to wait and see what I did there. That looks actually pretty decent there. So, all right. So I'm going to clean up my work. You see what I have. Find my paper towel and soak it up. Okay, maybe I ought to do this in the video more. So it looks like I have maybe something sticking up right there on that leg. I'll tell you, these look pretty good. So one of the tricks I've learned to do is I kind of look at what the landscape is. So it looks like, if you notice, I probably need some more over here, and I could probably use some more right here. It's just not sticking up as much. This guy's okay, he's just dark. Maybe not. I could probably try to touch him up. So I'm going to take another round at this. I'm pretty particular in getting this done the right way before I start. Let me see. Yeah, hold on. So, hey everyone. Oh, thanks Jeff, I appreciate it. Sometimes I'm right and sometimes I'm wrong. So that's the free advice is free, right? So, yeah, I've been using Chip Quick stuff. So I think I have it on our Discord server on the tools, but it's Chip Quick. I don't think I can show it here. Maybe. Catch that. Chip quick. It's SMD 291. See if I can focus that. Ah, there you go. So look for SMD 291. And what I purchase is a 30-gram tube, and I just keep refilling this 10-gram tube. So start off with a 10-gram, and then you get a 30-gram, because I'm always worried about running out, because I actually tend to use a lot for some reason. So, all right. So, how did you get the solder on the tip? Yeah. So, let me see if I can do this. So I have this solder wire here. Let me focus back up. So I have this solder wire, and I have my tip. And what I'll do is I'll put it on the tip, and it'll just be a little drop. And once I have the drop, I slide it. And then if it pulls up or bridges, I have that kind of copper stuff that I clean the tip with. So I'll go take it off the tip, and the tip will tend with flux to catch some of it and take it off. Like if I just put flux here with no solder on here, it's actually going to take some of this solder off. So really I've got to concentrate in the places where I said I was going to concentrate. So I'll label that by kind of saying, hey, I'm going to try to lay some more. These are easy to lay, so I'll just lay some more here. I think I had a low one there, which is the problem spot. And then that one over here, which I hate touching, but maybe I'll touch. So we'll do that. So I will put some more on the tip and run it along. So let me see if I can show that. That's hard to do. There it is. That's about as much as you want, okay? So let me see, chat. Yeah, Agent 86, I'm probably going to help do that. Let me see, we've got Discord set up and YouTube set up, and I'll probably get to the wiki so we can add the documentation. I just have to be honest with you. If we start posting stuff to the wiki that's copyright, someone's going to have a fit. Or like, hey, Austin, how you doing? You don't have to identify who you are. So. All right, so I'm going to touch this dude up right here. Hopefully we made him wider. I'm going to touch a little bit there. I don't know if this worked. We'll see. I'll go back and check. So I just keep repeating this process until I know that I'm happy with how I did it. So this guy's sticking up like something happened there, so we'll see. There you can kind of see the loud. Looks like I'm still a little low down here. This guy went crazy. This guy screwed up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a whole set of solder here. It's probably going to bridge, and I'm going to have to clean it up. And I'm going to run a whole set down through here. And I didn't get him enough, so I'm going to go back. So it looks like it from the top that it's okay, but it's really not. So why don't I can probably take him and use that excess solder right there just by rubbing it. And then I'm going to put a little bit on the tip for that. So back to the wire because I cleaned it off every time. Alright, so let's try to get number 1 up there. This is going to bridge because I have too much solder, but let me clean it off now and reflux it. Well, let's hope that worked. And then this guy's still kind of messed. I'll just do the whole thing on him. Just keep messing with it till I kind of like what it looks like. Let's see what that looks like. Like I said, you can't really tell. Let me see. Oh, okay, good. Private wikis. Good. Yeah, Austin, I'll call you by your name. Sorry in a bit. I have a thing. I have problems with solder paste. It tends to stick around and get between the chip's legs. I've had some real problems with it, so I kind of have perfected this. Okay, I'm pretty okay with that. You see how nice those legs are built up? So as far as my chip prep, I think I'm pretty comfortable with that. So I'm gonna clean it one more time. I just keep putting alcohol on it and rubbing it, and you can tell when you rub your finger there's no flux. Sometimes flux comes up from the wherever we're at here. Sometimes flux comes up from the lower depths. So this guy's good. All right. I'm gonna turn off my soldering iron. I'm gonna put this board away for a sec. All right. So I didn't like this thing at first. Let me see if I can. Here we go. See if I can bring it up some so you can see a bigger view. So we're going to work on the chip, and this is a stencil. And at first I had I kind of had a hard time using it because I had to learn how to use it. One is I needed to adjust it so it sat on top of the chip. I did adjust it finally, so it's kind of weird. It has you can't see the whole thing, but it has alignment pins, and I'll show you later. But if I turn it over, it'll still sit in, but it doesn't align with the chip. So you have to have it on the right side so it's aligned. And the other thing is I got a better scraper for solder paste, basically. So at first I was using the end of my tweezers to paste it in there. It almost looks like it's bent in there. Maybe it's getting worn. So I was using the end of my tweezers. Then I bought this really cheap, really cheap. I think they were $8 on eBay. It lasted me. Here it is. It's dirty right now, but I bought this really cheap thing that had this nice handle on it that it just snapped off after about 5 uses. So I went back again, and now if I can find it, here it is. I got this, it's like a table knife. It's like a big thing. So that's what I'm using now, and I'm really pretty happy with it. Okay, let me catch up on chat. Oh, so we're all good on chat now. Okay, good. So I'm going to go ahead and put some paste on here. And if you want to ask what paste I'm using, it's Chip Quick. I don't think I could get this in. It's just too... Oh, maybe I can. Okay, I have thermally stable solder paste, so I don't have to refrigerate it. So TS391 AX50, I think the 50 means it's 50 grams. I've got it in this big tub. Okay, I do have the same solder, so if I screw up on this and I have to manually adjust the chip, I have it in a syringe that I can get with a needle and I can adjust the chip. Hopefully we won't have to do that. Hopefully I'll nail it first time and look like I know what I'm doing. But we'll see. I found some loose legs on S9 boards. Any tip to restore them? So are you talking about the actual pads on the Jeff? Are you talking about the pad, or Jasper? Are you talking about the pads on the board that you'd solder to, or are you talking about? Well, I guess you must be. So Jasper, when you get a chance, ask that and make sure I know what you're talking about. I'll just go ahead. If you're talking about the pads for the chips, I ate one up the other night, but luckily it was one that goes nowhere on the board. So I make my mistakes. I've seen tutorials on YouTube on how to restore pads for chips. I highly recommend you go look at it. They're using small wire, and they put the wire down and restore it that way. And then they actually repair I forget what you call them, the leads on the circuit board or whatever. So yeah, so it's doable. It's just going to take, you're like micro engineering in there and micro soldering, and then I have this tube of green stuff that you cover it up to insulate it. You're going to need all of that stuff to rebuild a board, and if you have to, it'll work. You just can't make sure that leg sticks up past anything else. You saw me tilting the board forward. It needs to be equal to all the rest of them, or it's going to hold the chip up over the other leg, so you can't solder it. So, okay. Alright, so let me find my chips. Let's see here. My roll is diminishing. So this is obviously not something I think crypto miner CHR. I don't think you guys solder your heat sinks. So this is like for the S17s, and S19 uses the same chip, so it has a copper top. And then I think the legs are about the same because you can use the same. Yeah, thanks, crypto. So I think you guys use the same template. So watch, I'll put it in here. So I have a special way. There's one leg up top here, and there's two legs down here, so I know which way to put this. I throw it in there. Sure looking beat up. It still works. So you should be able to see the gold chip in there. If you don't see the gold chip, like if I flip this over the other way, and at first I was just using it like that, look. So if I don't know why they don't line up, but I would certainly paste the bottom, but none of the legs would be pasted. It wouldn't work. So this has to go a certain way. I do it under the microscope just to make sure that I have it there. So I'm going to open up my solder paste. Let's make sure I have enough paper towels to do all this operation here. There's some more. I kind of clean up my mess as I go along. So, all right. So let's throw some paste on there. Get a little bit out of my tub. It's plenty. I kind of use plenty actually. So let's kind of work it several ways, probably 3 or 4 ways, just to make sure. All right. So then when I'm done, I make sure there's solder over the place where I'm going to lift up. So don't just strip it bare. I'm going to put this aside, make sure we have a good grab. And then I take a needle and I go fishing for a hole. Like I found one. Hopefully it's in the right place. So I'm holding that down. I'm going to lift it up. You'll see. Okay? So what I had problems with before was the chip would come up with the plate. So hopefully it left me by pushing the needle down. There we go. Check that out. So I'm getting better at this. Alright, so I still have a mess to clean up. I'm going to leave the chip there, and I'm going to clean up all the excess solder paste on top of the, I put it back in the tub, so I'm cleaning that back up. Now I put it away back in my tub. And I'm going to clean, I've had bad experience with solder paste getting in places it shouldn't, like on boards in between legs and shorting stuff, so yeah, you can, KMO. That's what I did. I adjusted it so it'd finally do it. It took a while. Alright, so just a second. Let me clean my... I actually go ahead and clean the board too, so the stencil, right when I do it. Then I'll heat up the chip. We'll take a look at it, make sure it did its job. I'm just throwing alcohol on the stencil, making sure I can see through it clearly. Yeah, good deal. Alright, so that's ready to put away. Let me throw that away. Anything with solder paste on it, I keep on paper towels and I throw it in the garbage because you don't want to like go eat after you're doing this. So, let me get a drink of water here. Alright, so I made a few mistakes by using these nice fine tweezers to pick the chip up to heat it up. So I use these big things, big giant ones, and it holds it. I set my hot air gun for 300, low air, as low as it'll go. Okay, so I'm at 300 on my hot air gun. I'm going to pick this chip up out of here. It's going to disappear for a sec, guys, and I'll bring it back, okay? Okay, so I got the hot air on it. I don't want to heat that thing up, or my table, so hang on just a sec. But I can tell looks good. So, all right, that's done. Chip's still a little hot. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty uniform all over there. See that? So there you go. Kind of glares in the light, huh? Let me. It's gonna glare anyway, no matter what I do. So I'm gonna put my stencil away, and I'm gonna put the whatever you call it that I use to spread the paste. Where is that dude? Up here. I keep it with the stencils. So. Okay, let's have a look at this guy. So another thing I do, just to make sure the legs are good, is I hold it in the microscope and I kind of look at the makeup of the leg. So really that last leg, sorry for my fingernails there, but that last leg is not that high. I've made them so they're all pretty high. These are okay. There was not a lot of solder on those, but they look pretty good there, see. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Agent 86, thank you. I might try that. It's never ending. I hate losing a chip in there. These look better. It looks like, you know, one side of that probably does a better job than the other. This chip looks in good shape. I do put it in a lid of alcohol and I wash it. So this guy's clean and ready to go. So I put him aside. Now, looks like I'm a pro now. You guys don't see all my mistakes, but I make plenty. So, oh, I could talk about this. So if this chip, let me find my, if this chip, like if you missed some of the solder, and like these legs down here were flat, and they were still kind of shiny or they weren't sticking up, I literally take my syringe of the same solder. It has that same number, it's just in a syringe. I take my syringe, the same number, and I take a little bit and I just make a line of it. A real small line, not much. And I put it back on the places that need to be put on. Or let's say I try to put this chip on tonight and it's doesn't make it. And I have to pull it off. Maybe it moves on me in the middle of it and takes half the solder off. I will actually rebuild all this solder by hand by using a needle and a little bit of that solder paste. I'll actually make a nice line of solder down the places that need it, not too much, and then I'll heat it with a heat gun, and then the places where there's bridges, I'll take my, I'll throw flux just along the side, and I'll take my soldering tip at 300 and pretty quickly just go right down and clean it back up. So I've had to rebuild these dudes a lot, and I'm not afraid to. It just takes a long time. So probably if I fail tonight, I'll hit it tomorrow. I have to go to work tomorrow, so but you'll see the gist of what I do. All right, let's get back to the board. So, all right. So one thing I do just a sanity check to see if there's going to be any problems is I put the side of the chip on the side of the board. Let me have a little bit out of focus there. So it looks like we have enough solder on both sides to do that. So I kind of look that and I switch it on the other side. Just kind of lay it there. Because I would look for things like sometimes like you might have put way too much solder on one leg. Like what if we put a ton of solder on here, it was kind of bulged out. It didn't touch anything, but it was bulged out. And if there was way too much solder here, I would probably stop and I'd probably clean this leg up. Because between the both of them being a lot of solder, you're going to get a problem when you put the chip down. I mean, you might get a bridge or you might get some other stuff. This concerns me a little bit, but probably not that much. Once this chip drops, it'll touch this. This will be molten and it'll touch that. So I could be wrong. By the way, does that go anywhere? It's like somebody repaired this board before. Actually, it's awfully thin, but this chip does go somewhere. Yeah, this just goes up to the test point. So if I'm reading a bad voltage on my test point, that would be why. I do one more thing. I told you I scraped it with a knife. I just make sure that there's nothing sticking up. So I have this small razor blade, and I just kind of, not hard, I don't get into the legs, but just those bumps, I just kind of make sure everything's smooth. I just take my time on prep until I know it's ready. Okay, now I'm going to clean this one more time. Chip's pretty clean. Okay, so everything's pretty clean. I'm going to check chat. Okay, you guys are good? Another chat? Good. All right. Okay, so I've experimented a lot from here. In the beginning, I would put a lot of flux on there because you want to float the chip and move it around while it's heating. I don't do that. It doesn't work well for me. I get it up on the hot plate. If it's not really level, or when I put the air gun on it, the chip moves. I've learned. I put just a little bit here. Spread pretty thin. I will put a little more on the legs, not much. About that much. I don't want the chip floating off. So what's going to happen when I put the chip here, if I got the right enough flux, this is a little bit much. So I'm actually just going to kind of do this. All the legs have to be wet. I want that to be. I want the chip to start grabbing a hold of the solder points. I don't want it to float on the flux and then gravity takes place and the chip just swings around. And chips swing around when you have maybe a high point on one of these legs and they just use it as a pivot, just roll off. And once that happens in the process, you just will stop. California fires just got the air bad here. You just as well stop and go through this whole process again. I re-prepare the base, I redo the chip, and I start over again. So that's why I take so much time doing this. So, all right. Now, I don't know if your other miners have these lines, but I really use them when they're here. This really tells me if the chip is lined up on either side. I will do a visual, but if you start playing with flux on these legs and start looking at it close to the microscope, the flux magnifies this and you can become probably not so accurate. So I've got kind of the edge of the chips. I know the corner of the chip is poking kind of in this open spot in here. I know to sanity check myself there, and I really keep an eye on this, and I want to see as close as possible both white lines when I place this. Okay? So I start with my fingers. Just get it close. Sometimes I nail it, but so I do all my placement here. I don't move it up. I don't move it at all when it's up above. So I've got two hands on these tweezers to be very slight. Okay, so what I'm looking for here is the lines. I'm looking, you see this last pin, how close to the edge it is right here? My guess is we could go higher on this, it would be better, but I'll check that out. It looks like I can come, depending on where that corner is, either the corner's in the copper or there's a dark space there. Can't do the shadow, but I'm really looking to make this perfect. So I would prefer this chip up just a little bit more. So I mean barely. That's barely. I'm pretty happy with this. It looks a little thinner than over here. I might barely just move it here. If I move it too much, I'll start over. Okay. Oh, you're from Odessa. I actually went to school in Chico. I lived in Chico for a long time, but I'm over the mountains, but we're getting pounded. Really bad with the smoke. All right, I'd say that looks pretty good. I mean, that looks pretty lined up. And again, I make sure that this last pin has a little bit of space below it. This pin has space on both sides because you could have it cockeyed. Let's look over here. This corner looks a little low almost. This corner should be somewhere over in here. If you just look at the other chips. See how that corner is, see how that corner right there is kind of just based past the line? It looks like we're pretty good. I don't want to move too much. Yeah, we're pretty good on this. I think if the chip doesn't move, If the chip doesn't move, we're in good shape. So I don't have a lot of flux. I have enough flux to transfer the heat, but I don't have a lot. So let's switch cameras, and let's get this hot plate going, and we're going to have a wait again. So let me see if I can... Oh, I got something to do while we're heating, but first let's get it on there. Hang on. Overhead. Yeah, ooh, it goes on top of the microscope. Okay, I'm going to move the microscope out of the way. We're done with it for a little while. And here I come. So you see the new chip right up here? So I'm going to use, I'm going to try to support it so it doesn't move around and is as much level as I can. And the bottom is touching, so that's pretty stable for the most part. Let me see if I can fix that up. So I'm going to, my tactic's going to be coming in here with the heat gun, with my hand, and pushing down on the chip once it's ready. Okay. So I'm going to turn the heater on the hot plate. I've got it set for 181 degrees centigrade. It never gets that hot. Probably I stop when it's 120 or 140, okay? Solder, let me see. I've had the solder on the chip connections, yes, because they're not uniform. So you want a little bit smoother connection, okay? Yeah, I know I have that problem. It's because you've got too much solder on the chips, or there's a sharp point sticking up on the legs of the board. So that's why I tilt the board up and I look and make sure it's nice and smooth. And the same thing with the chip. Sometimes I do it anyway, but if you have like one leg on the chip sticking up, it'll pivot and move around all the time. So let me zoom in here if I can, just so you see. If I can, I got all sorts of stuff. I probably have to focus and it won't focus. But anyway, it's sitting there. I haven't moved it, so I'm going to bring it back up because I got to have room for the hot air gun soon. Let me see, that straightens that out. Okay. So while we're waiting for that to get hot, it's going to melt. It's going to melt the flux here, and the flux will kind of run out, and it'll just sit down on the solder, and hopefully it'll start getting hot enough. It won't melt the solder, but it'll do it. So while we're waiting, let me see if I can do this. I wanted to show you the error like this one was getting. And I'll probably post this in the, and hopefully you guys can see this. And it's kind of small, but wrong temperature sensor type. And it was expecting 23, but it got 0. It just means it wasn't communicating. It didn't know. Nothing came back from the temperature sensor. So, and then the board will refuse to run and say error temp loss. So this is what the Antminer software does. Brains can be more forgiving, but not when it won't communicate. It may be hot and it might ignore it or not ignore it. But if it can't find the temperature, if the communications channel shut off, it will not run at all. So I wanted to show you that. I meant to kind of preface all this work with that. That's why I'm doing this one. I won't even test this till tomorrow night. But okay, let me move that back off. Hide that. Okay, so we'll wait a little longer. So it's up to 141. On this, I know somebody has this workstation because they were asking. There's this temperature sensor. I've used it before. So you have this wire you stick down on the board. After about 2 times of the wire accidentally hitting the chip, I wait till it's hot. I know the hot air gun's really going to do the heavy lifting on this, but you can. Usually when I put the temp sensor down on the board, I'll put a little flux on the tip just so it transfers the heat right. But it just doesn't give me enough valuable data sometimes. If I'm taking off a chip or I'm refloating it, I might throw it on top of the chip itself and just measure the temp with that. I'll use it sometimes, but I just don't use the infrared that much anymore. So, all right, we'll just keep waiting. We've made it to 173, but I usually go out and water my garden or do something else while this is heating up. Work on something else. Okay, so we've hit the max temp on the hot plate, but let's let's wait till the board gets it. And I don't know if there's a way. I really wanted to show you guys close up to the chip how it buckles down when it's there. I just don't know if there's a way. Maybe we could play with the camera while we're waiting for this to get hot. But I have to get the hot air gun. Let me turn that off. Somehow I have to get the hot air gun in right above it. So it's just going to be weird. I could go off to the side. It's just going to have to trust me on that. Now I really messed it up. Okay, at least you can see the chip. Okay. Oh, and I had one time the hot air when you pick it up, I had it right over the chip and the tip fell off on it because I didn't tighten it down. Just all these things always happen to you. So I've almost stopped using the hot air gun to replace resistors and capacitors. I kind of just hold them down with tweezers. I'm having more luck doing that with the soldering iron. It's just really hard using solder paste and getting stuff hot enough and not screwing up things all around it. Let's see how we're doing here. Yeah, infrared light. It's getting there. We're almost there. Now, I used to, when I got the hot air gun on it, throw some other flux. I would actually, underneath the heat, I would put 1 drop of flux on this side and 1 drop of flux on this side. I don't do it now because I don't want the chip to move. So really this first pass is to get the chip down onto the board. It may not be connected all the way. I don't necessarily try to do that all in the first pass. Once the chip is soldered, I can actually spend some more time with it and melt it even further and get it a better take. So I might go back 3 times while this board is warm to finish the chip off. So I don't try to do it all at once. The first step is to get it nailed down in the right place in the proper position. I trust my solder is going to do the work once I get it there. Things are looking pretty shiny in there. I'd say we placed that chip pretty good. I just want it to heat up good so it's just easier, so we're just going to stall a few more minutes. Jeff, if you're from Modesto, isn't your power bill with PG&E like crazy high? How do you afford the mine? Or are you gone from there? Because I thought about hitting my relatives up for some of their power and say, hey, you should do this, but just the cost is really prohibitive if you're still on. And I kind of wonder what you guys' delay is on this. You'd be hearing this like 5 minutes from now. But oh yeah, fill that heater right. 10 cents in Modesto? That's not that bad. Do you guys have PG&E or use in LA or something? Modesto's not as far as LA though. I used to work in Madera for a while. I went to the Fresno Fair and stuff. That was kind of cool. You know, I don't know if this chip is shifted, but this lower part of this leg, these dudes aren't sticking out as much. They don't shine. They still do, but that might be a weak spot of our plant. Just you can kind of tell how things are going to happen. All right, I think I can do this. So you check your temperature because I had it at 300 to melt the solder on the chip. So I'm going to bump it back to 450. Okay, so the plan here is I'm going to heat up the chip. I'm not going to add flux. This is near at the top of my camera. Hang on. Except the glare. Sorry guys. You're going to see the very top of this. So the plan is I'm going to heat this up. There's already some flux on there right now. There's enough flux on the base, really. All the solder can melt. I might have to get the chip a little hotter to do this, but what I'll see is you'll start, when you guys have heated a chip before, you see kind of the legs start to sparkle. I'll start to see that, And if I've placed the chip right, they'll just like all melt at once, and the chip will just like slam down. It'll look like a breathing accordion almost. The chip's just going down and it changes. And when it does that, I know that it's kind of found its place. Sometimes it doesn't do that, but I look for that, and I'm happy when that happens. And so it'll just kind of go, and you'll see the legs just kind of weird, kind of flatten out or something. And then I'm going to take my my heavier tweezers, and I'm going to be very careful in the center of the chip just to push down. Then I'll heat just a little more after I push it down. It helps the solder flow out and make those nice little bubbles that you get, the nice little balls that you get for the legs. And then what I'll do is I'll pull the heat gun off, hold this down for a little bit, maybe blow on it. And I'll take this off, then I'll shut off the hot plate. I'm going to bring it down, and I'm going to switch to the microscope, and I'll start examining my solder job when it's still hot. I can set it on this table, thank goodness. So then if I see any problem spots, like it's just the leg sticking out, like it never got melted and I thought it did, I'll just throw it back up there and do it again. So that's what we'll do. All right, here goes. I'm sorry if I block you, but got my arm wrapped around one side. All right, here we go. Solder gun's heating up. My finger's in the way. I don't think I can change that. Okay, the legs are sparkling. So you heated up the board pretty good. Or that was my shadow, maybe, I don't know. So there's not as much flux, so they won't melt as fast, but I won't buck the chip. Yeah, okay, the chip, so they're starting to melt now. Uh-oh, it moved, guys. If I can move it back. I moved it back. It looks like it took. So I'm going to push it down now that it moved back. Okay, so I'm holding it. I'm applying heat. It looks like I moved it back successfully, but you never know. I'll find out. Did I take the heat off? I'm still holding it. Remember, you got the 180 degrees down below too. So just blow off the top. Okay. I'm going to let the air gun cool down. I'm going to turn off the power. Modesto Irrigation District. Great deal. Fantastic. All right, let's see what we did. I'm going to have to switch cameras. It might go right back on. So let me see if I turn off the overhead. We have a microscope. All right. Where is this dude? Let me find him. Ah, look at that. It looks like I got, you know, from the top it looks pretty good. It looks like I moved down. I've still got the line. You can still see the line at the edge of the chip down there. Do you see that? It's kind of hard to tell. But the top looks pretty good. I mean, I think we moved, so I was able to shove it back. So just because it moved, it may be no good. These guys look decent. So the way I examine this the other way, if we can, they've got flux on the legs, as I tilt it up. So you know most of those legs are melted. For the most part, I see one middle one that I might be. That one doesn't look so great. These are kind of not pushed out like they could be. These are okay. Let's look at the other side. These guys all look fairly good. I mean, some solder melted in there and got pushed out. I would say up here, not as much. And these aren't pushed out as much as these over here. So it looks like I lost a resistor, which is no big deal. So my measurements for diode resistance now will be off on that. I just need to remember I need to replace the resistor. How about the other resistor? Let's have a look. Yeah, I lost 2 resistors. Okay, so I want to show you something else while it's still hot. I do some quick measurements right on the fly. Let me switch cameras real quick. I'll show you what I do. Okay, let's bring this guy back. Okay, so even when the chip is hot, you can do diode resistance. The diode resistance will be low, but they should all be the same. So let's have a look what we got here. This will give me a say on what I've done. So remember, it's supposed to be 1200, but it's hot, so it's reading 1090. So I go across and check this, 1096. So they're same. Those are good connections. That one should be a little bit less. The pin next to I don't think it's a clock. This top one is the middle one, the RO, and then this guy should be next to the. So these guys are 11.0. So this guy's 11.01. 11.05. So somebody's high here because I'm missing a resistor, but I don't know. But those look consistent with the heat. That guy's high, but this guy is high. It should be low, but it might be the resistor missing. Ooh, is this guy 0? Guess what? This guy didn't connect at all. Check that out. Oh, these are supposed to be high because it's the in chip. Okay, so I got a bad connection there. That guy is probably high because there's no resistor. They're all about the same though. Alright, so I moved it, but there's no connection on this guy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the microscope, I'm going to go chase him down, I'm going to put it on the hot plate again. And so it switched. The other one was a short. So that last one does go through the resistor. I wonder if he needs the resistor since it's the last chip. I don't think so. So I'm testing the chip side of the resistor. I'm getting 13 there. I mean, I think it is connected. Maybe that's not it. Yeah, someone's done some work here, so maybe it's... Yeah, it's hard to tell on that leg whether this one must go through here. This one must just bypass it. I think I can tell by another chip. 2 forward. Hang on. Boy, that's unique because it's the end. That's the end one. I think it goes through here. I do this and this. I'm getting resistance there. So if I touch that one, I can't tell. I think it warrants a refloat. Thank you. So let's do it one more time. See if we can get something to appear. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Yeah, shoot. I thought you were on the microscope and I was. So, what I was doing, now you can see. Let me do that over again. We're losing some of our heat, but that's okay. I got it back on. So what I was doing is testing diode resistance. These are going to be a little high because they're high naturally because they're at the end. So 13. And they're missing resistors, 13. That one's going to be lower, it's the middle RO port, 13. And this guy, this last guy, is 0. Now it used to be that guy's a 0, so we fixed that problem. But now this guy's 0. And I'm hoping because the chip didn't move, I can't get that back. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to heat that guy back up, and I'm going to concentrate with my... And I'm going to work right on this side of it. So let's get that back on. Same process. And I do it while the board's still warm because you want to take advantage of that. So I'm going to move you guys back up to the heater. Okay. Why that flux isn't hard, I'm going to throw some more down. Now is when I flow a lot of flux down. I know that chip's not going to move now because it's already been... So I actually liberally apply the flux. It's safe now. It's not going to move on me. So we're going to actually do this whole process again, except with a lot more flux. So sorry about that. I was hiding my measurement. All I did was measure both sides of the chips, and I came up with that one dead. So put this away. I'm going to wait just a few minutes. The thing's heating back up because I took so long. I use diode measurement more than I do resistance, but I still use resistance too. I look for bad chips using resistance and diode because sometimes they just have resistance and good diode, or sometimes they don't have the diode and the resistance is good. So I really always check both ways on them. Thank you guys for hanging with me. I know it's 9:40 on a Sunday here, so some of you guys are way far away, maybe. All right, 170. Just I want that base to heat up so I don't hurt the chip. You guys like this format with the chat on the side, or should I just go full video, you think? At least it's recorded. I'm hoping it's going to record on YouTube with the chat and your questions, so I hope so. It's a miracle that it's all working. I just decided to do it tonight. All right, we're at 181. Still warming up though, and I'm going to hit the heat gun with it. Australia. Oh, you're going to move up to North America, huh? Good for you. Although Australia would be fun for a while for me. Okay, we've got flux. Again, it soaked it up. It did whatever it's going to do. I want to make sure it has flux. It does. Let's heat this thing up again. Same process. I'm going to keep an eye on those legs on the solder. You can see them sparkle. I'll know when to push down. Yeah, it's getting warm, I can tell. Smoking the flux out. So now, I don't know why I do this, but it helps me see. This actually cools it off. I'll put a drop of flux there and a drop of flux there, but it magnifies the legs for me, and I can see if they're melted. And they seem to be melted. So I'm going to drive it down now again. Yeah, I saw it push down good there. So I've got it held down, and I'm still heating it, and then I take it off. Then I let them cool off. They're still sizzling in there. Alrighty, same process. Let's go examine it. Yeah, I bet it's beautiful. I've never been a city person. I've always lived in the country. So it looks like, to me, that we got more melting out of here, but because, so you can tell all of these have melted definitely. So these were molten. I guess what the telltale is we're going to see what the oh, you can't see. Sorry, blah. Let me turn it over and I'll show you. Not used to this new. Okay. I mean, it looks really nice. you definitely want those little balls. It means the solder underneath got pushed out. In theory, you're connected. After this video, if I'm not connecting, I'm gonna stop now. But I have to check. I can't tell if this resistor goes to this. Doesn't look like it. Oh, it looks like the top is. I got a lot of cleanup to do with the flux. But let's try it out. Let me switch video cameras again. The left side of this doesn't look like I would normally like it. Some of it does. But you see some of them, you can still see the legs. So actually, it's cold up there. Actually, I probably would want to do this again and concentrate on this side and get it pushed down. But you can tell those are melted, so I'm not as concerned, and I got good readings off of it. If my chip doesn't work, that would be the next step. So I'm going to switch cameras again. We're going to test that, see if I fixed my problem. If I didn't, I might have to redo the chip, and it was because it's because it moved. It always moves when I'm doing videos. I get about 4 out of 5 times it doesn't move. But alright, so I've got diode resistance on. We're really concerned about this last port. Nothing. So it might be this. I was picking up something right there, which is about right. So maybe we need that resistor here. I'm not sure because it's the end of the line. The rest of these dudes look okay. Okay? So in the case I never could bring that one back after I replaced the resistor, I would pull the chip, re-prepare it, try not to make it move, and just do the same exact process. This is the exact process I use. I've been very successful with new chips on this. I haven't done a used chip for a long time because I ran out of used chips. So that's it. Then you clean up and clean it off. Especially if I do the chip again, I try to clean it off again and get all this flux off of it so I can get to the legs. Temperature of their plate, probably the board ended up being about 150, 140. I put the temperature on the plate at 181, but I don't cook it for 2 hours to get it there. I just wait till it gets really good and hot. The whole point is, if I didn't heat the plate, I would be blasting this chip, and the chip would get hot way before the board, and probably not solder well, and it might explode the chip. I mean, you can explode chips by just throwing them on there. So once the chip's brought up, I haven't lost any chips this way now. I used to lose chips the other way once in a while because I would just have to really keep heating it. So I do set it to 181, and then I just wait until I think it's hot and I see everybody shiny in there, and I do it. So thank you, Sanquiz. Okay, guys, I'm going to try to stop the recording. Geez, that was an hour and 20 minutes, believe it or not. I'm going to try to stop the recording. I appreciate you guys being on here, and I'll see you on the Discord channel for sure. I answer a lot of you guys. Some of you guys are real heavy in the L3s. I'm not as strong there, but Crypto Miner seems to know them, and there's Donald from Texas knows those really well, so you guys are really covered there, and I'm looking forward to other experts to hop up and help out. So thank you guys for tuning in tonight, and I'll try to do this again at some time. And I'm going to go test this board in a bit after I put that resistor on. So take care, guys.